Hello friends, this is Adam with Movie Guy 365, and today I'm going to give my final review and overall impressions on the Hatchet movies. If you're new to the channel, please hit that like button, subscribe, hit that bell notification. I put out videos daily. So yeah, long story short, I like to do a weekly series on the channel of Blind Buy, and we're getting near Halloween, and a good friend of mine suggested I try Hatchet films. I have never seen them. I'll be honest, I've never even really heard of them. I knew Kane Hodder was doing something, but I never really explored further. And so they kind of slipped under the radar. They started about 10 years ago. We started with Hatchet, and then Hatchet 2, Hatchet 3, and then with Victor Crowley, the latest one. So I'm like, all right, I love horror. Let's dive in. And the way it was pitched to me was it was kind of like in the vein of Friday the 13th, but a little more comedy to it, but still kind of not a spoof necessarily, but like a homage to like those films. So I started out, of course, with Hatchet 1, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. I felt it had a good commentary on horror films. It was a bit of a spoof. Actually, it is a spoof. It is a spoof of those movies, specifically Friday the 13th. But it's also like done, I believe, in a loving way. And of course, you have cameos from horror icons like Tony Todd and Robert Englund. And it was overall a good, it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. Had a nice little rock, heavy metal soundtrack-esque to it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Hodder's Victor Crowley. And, it was, for the guy who hasn't done Friday the 13th in a while, this was a good fit for him. I felt the killer design was great. Arguably the fun about the movie is it doesn't take itself too seriously, but it doesn't tend to veer off into complete lunacy. We've seen movies like that do that before, where they try to do like a spoof and it just turns out into like you can't really take it seriously as a horror film. I think that was a good mix that they managed to succeed in the original Hatchet. So moving on, I did my next film would be, of course, Hatchet 2. And this was honestly the one that was hardest to track down in stores, but I eventually did get it at a good price. And I have to admit, I wasn't as enamored with the second one as I was the first. I felt that they changed too much of Tony Todd's character, Zombie. And it was almost to the point where he wasn't the same character. I liked that character in the first movie, but this one was it just didn't. I liked the story, but it was like he didn't have that flair of the first movie. And while the kills are great, I felt that at the end of the day it wasn't as good. It still had that commentary, but I felt that was more watered down in this one. And overall, we also got a new Danielle Harris took over as the main character, but I felt she did a great job. I like her. I thought she was good. Also, the story it didn't make sense, but I didn't feel like it was a wink and a nod. It was almost like oh yeah, we got to get these guys out here. It's almost like let's plot device it, which comes back to haunt later in a weird way in Victor Crowley. But overall, it was okay film. It wasn't my favorite. Actually, it's probably my least favorite of the. Let me get back to that. Anyway, it wasn't the fact that Tony Todd was in it was I feel like the saving grace, and we also had some good scenes, but I think overall it felt inferior to part 1. So that leads us into Hatchet 3. Honestly, behind the original Hatchet, it's my favorite. It's fun. It does have some weird moments. I do feel that there was a plenty of homage to other genres. I could definitely see the Predator being influenced in there, and like just other types of action movies. It was not so much less horror, but it was more action than horror in my opinion. And while that wasn't necessarily a bad thing, I did enjoy it for what it was. There was some weird subplot with the sheriff and his wife, and it's at the end of the day, like, they were my least favorite characters. And at the end, and that's the other thing, like, a lot of these characters have like these little arcs, but then they never go anywhere, and it's just like, oh well, they're almost killed off in a, you know, frivolous manner. It doesn't mean anything, but I guess it's not really supposed to. But I think I'm trying to get my message across, is I felt like there could have been a little more, but I still enjoyed the hell out of it. It was, you know, Daniel Harris comes back once again, and we also get a great cameo from a character in the first movie, which I felt was just awesome. I actually laughed out loud at that. It was great. It had a good vibe to it. I left this one feeling great, and I couldn't wait to dive into Victor Crowley. And you know, so but I think overall it's definitely my one of my top ones in the series. And that brings us to Victor Crowley, my most recent watch. Overall, as I had a day or so to think about it, this one didn't sit as well. Once again, as I noted in my review of Victor Crowley, you don't have a movie named after the character and then that character become like the background. He's barely in it. I feel it spent way too much time on the subplots of these characters and not enough with Victor Crowley. I kind of expected some like revamped origin. Honestly, that's when I went in, that's what I was expecting. Like, oh, instead of Hatchet 4, they just called it Victor Crowley. So this is gonna be like maybe even taking place in the past and really focusing on him. They really don't do that. He's in the opening. You lose like 35, 40 minutes with these characters. And then, like, yeah, he's there, but then not really. He's used so sparingly. I kind of wonder if there was like a production issue or if there was like a scheduling problem. It felt like, you know, like if you called it Hatchet 4, it could almost be forgivable. You know, like where was he? Like, you know, what was going on here? Yeah, some of the kills are great, but there was a couple that were just like, like you could have done that in any movie. And I don't know, it just feels very dialed back. Very dialed back. A couple of the characters were exceedingly annoying. One was at the borderline of improv at, you know, somewhere. It just didn't work for me. You know, and as I had time to really digest it, and I love I love the ending of this one. I did. I really liked it. If they do another one, I hope it's more Hatchet than Victor Crowley. You know, spending half your movie in a crashed plane, once again, talk about a plot device. Like, why were they there? Like, I mean, like, they dangled these ideas and then like, it's like taking, like, if I lived 20 miles outside of Philadelphia, it's like going to the local airport and then flying to Philadelphia. Like, why would I do that? Like, it seemed weird, like an odd plot device to get them there, and then they keep them in this plane. You know, I thought that was a mistake creatively. I didn't enjoy that. It took away from the movie, and I think Victor Crowley himself, while that was a funny sequence, how they quote unquote dispose of him, you know, I don't feel like that saved the movie. The ending almost did, and the post-credits scene almost did. But I think overall I didn't enjoy this one, and it was definitely the weakest. So let's go into my ranking of the 4. Obviously, Hatchet, the original, the best. I dug the story. It was just enough. It kept the allure and the mystery of the characters and Victor Crowley himself. I enjoyed that. It felt very much like, you know, Friday the 13th Part 2. And I liked that. I liked the commentary. I liked the cameos, which all seemed to disappear after 3. And I enjoyed this one a lot. Now, my second favorite, which is the only film in the series not to be directed by Adam Green, was Hatchet 3. I like this one a lot. I like that it did veer more towards the action point. You know, we had all these soldiers together and or militarists. I like that. I like, you know, it's one of the things I wish they did with Jason in the Friday the 13th. Why isn't like a small military force going out and hunting this guy? I did a little bit of that with Jason Goes to Hell. That was a great opening and probably my favorite of the series. But, you know, I wish they would have done that in the Friday series to like a degree. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Hatchet 3 a lot. Now, my third favorite and the last favorite, that went back and forth a few times, but ultimately I settled on, I think, Hatchet 2 being my third. It was good. It still kept within the spirit of the Hatchet films, but I feel like they kind of veered off a little bit. They definitely, Tony Todd's character was a wasted opportunity. I love the guy, and I loved what he did in the beginning of 1. And it's just like they just forgot about it. It was like, oh, okay, you know, he's this mysterious guy. Then he turns out, oh, he's just a guy. That I didn't feel like was enough to put it in last place. Yes, it was a wasted opportunity, but I overall enjoyed part 2. It was silly. It was campy. Yes, I think it was trying to take itself a little too serious for the most part, but overall, I feel it did work. And Victor Crowley, unfortunately, is my least favorite. I didn't enjoy it overall. I really had to sit on this and think about it. I feel like they were trying something and it just didn't work. And also, there seemed to be a scheduling problem. I don't know if that's factual or not, but you don't have the movie named after the guy and then you barely use him. You know, I liked how we did have that cameo, but I won't ruin it here. But it didn't overall work for me. I think there was too much focus on the characters that ended up getting killed off anyway, really quick, and you didn't really care about any of them. There wasn't, Daniel Harris was all but absent, and just you didn't have that one. I know Perry Shen was that character, but if you don't like him, his character in that, you don't root for him, and I felt that was just like kind of a waste. And overall, not a fan. I don't think I'll go back to Victor Crowley. I may give it a shot a few years down the line just to see if it sit well. And that brings me to the point. The ending of Victor Crowley definitely sets up another either Hatchet, or I don't know if they're going to do Victor Crowley 2. I don't know which way they're going to go. I think maybe kind of kicking this out of, not continuity, but leaving it alone, go right to Hatchet 4. I think that might be the way to go. It kind of, for me anyway, that would just kind of take away the taste of it. But it definitely looks like they're going to make more. I hope they do. I think they should really go back to the roots. I think they need to get some more horror icons in there. You know, we have all these characters out there. You know, they don't have to be the huge stars, but in the genre of horror, you can get some people in there. And I think that they didn't do that well. And I don't know. I think whatever they do in the future, I'm going to go see it. I will see it. But I hope they go more towards direction of 1 and less with Victor Crowley. Overall, yeah. So that's pretty much going to do it. Those are my overall impressions about all the 4 of the Hatchet films. Was it worth me watching? Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone has potential. It has something I like in every single one. The quality veers off a little bit, arguably, but nobody's making these films like these anymore. They're really, you know, I think the horror films either take themselves too seriously or don't know how to make an R-rated slasher. And I've seen movies lately that have been good examples, but they not to this level. I'll give them credit for that much, that we do have a good slasher, lots of blood, lots of gore, but I think we need to go back to that. I think we need to focus more on the commentary. We need to focus on that, you know. And you know, hey, Kane Hodder, keep making them, and you know, just, you know, I love you over here. I do, and I'm glad to see you in front of the camera again, and it's great, and I'm glad I checked these out. So special thanks to my good friend Ian Kauffman, who turned me on to these. Actually, this is one of his shirts, Rustwood Apparel. He's got great stuff. Look him up. I'll put the link actually in the description if you want to check out his gear. Awesome guy. Thank you very much for turning me on to these. So yeah, that's pretty much going to do it. Leave your comments below. What did you think of the Hatchet films? How did you rank them up? Let me know in the comments. So until next time, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. I will see you at the movies.